Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in.
Hello everybody, this is Philly. How you going? I always start off these intros with, I am so excited, but I'm so excited. I actually really love having a podcast. And this by far is my most favorite format of an episode. Today we are so honored to have the wonderful Fiona Foreman, who is one of our clients. She has recently graduated from our Ending Body Burnout Method program, and she is coming on to share her story today about how she got her spark back, found her flow, and is finally overcoming years of very debilitating chronic fatigue. So when Fiona first started working with us, she'd been struggling with chronic fatigue for decades, like literally 1 out of 10 energy levels. She was not coping very well, in bed a lot. She also had really bad brain fog, chronic body pain, headaches, and also was experiencing a racing mind that kept Fiona feeling busy, even though her body couldn't keep up. So she could never really relax, never really surrender into the rest that her body was craving, even though she was like in bed and asleep for many hours. Fiona was a slow and steady healer. I love experiencing our clients and the different ways that they move through our program. Some are like fast and wholehearted and like get in and get remarkable transformations in as little as a few months. Others are like more slow and steady and methodical and moving at their own pace, implementing small pieces as capacity builds. And this was definitely Fiona's case. So, you know, if someone started working with us at only 1 out of 10 energy, there's only so much capacity one can have to move forward at a certain amount of pace. But over 12 months, we watched her energy levels increase. She is now at 7 out of 10, which is pretty awesome. Her body pain is finally reducing, and she has reprogrammed deeper dysfunctional beliefs about herself and gave herself permission to flow, which is where the real healing started happening. And I love these real life stories. They're super special. I actually call them evidence collecting. And this is a term we use inside our method with our clients a lot, that the more evidence that you can collect that healing is possible, the more you can hear and see this through others, the more it can become possible for you. It's literally feeding your brain and your unconscious mind evidence that you too can heal. So the more you can hear and see these stories, the more it becomes possible for you too. And that's really why Fiona's coming on to share her story today, to spread hope and healing for others. As you listen to the episode today, you'll hear that Fiona loves music, and she actually has a really cool business that I wanted to give a shout out to. She talks about it inside the program, and it was a big part of her healing, being able to align with what her heart really wanted. And it's also awesome to see as her health has improved, so has her business. Her business is growing, which is really cool. When you address the deepest root, it's not just the body that gets healthy, but it's also relationships, it's work, it's business, it's finances, everything changes. So Fiona Foreman is an Australian producer working out of her self-designed and built commercial grade studio, Red Robin Recording, located in the island state of Tasmania. Fiona loves working with authentic artists with great songs and a great voice who love to tell their story through the power of music. She can take a song from a simple voice memo through to a fully produced, distributable track, whether that be for streaming platforms, CD or vinyl, or for pitching to licensing opportunities. She has recorded several EPs with local bands and duos, but has worked primarily remotely with artists around the world who are aiming at music and film, TV and advertising while staying true to their artistic vision. Fiona's strengths are groove-based, guitar-infused pop genres ranging from acoustic folk through to indie pop, electric pop and pop rock, with many tracks represented by several sync licensing agencies and libraries. The track count is growing and the placements are starting to flow. Oh, actually, really quickly, announcement, which you might have heard the last couple of weeks, but in a few weeks we'll be holding a 3 3-day live coaching experience called Unravel Perfectionism and End Body Burnout. We touch on Fiona's perfectionism, overdoing type patterns in this conversation today. And if you really love listening to this story and love our holistic root cause approach, where we go beyond just treating the physical, which is also important, and Fiona talks about that, but also deeply looking at the root causes that cause the body systems to burn out in the first place, definitely sign up to our 3-day live event, Unravel Perfectionism and End Body Burnout. On day 1, we'll be looking at body systems that are very commonly burnt out when you're running perfectionism patterns. On day 2, we'll be looking at deepest root causes that actually cause the patterns in the first place. And on day 3, we'll move to food and move and how you can support your body from a place of flow rather than force. So head down to the show notes and jump onto the page to register for the event. It's going to be awesome. And we will also, during this time, so we hold these free coaching weeks in conjunction with the week of doors being open to our Ending Body Burnout Method, which is our 6-month healing accelerator. And the best way to work with us to get a true transformation. So pop your name down on the wait list if you can. You will get access to over $500 worth of early bird bonuses, and also you can secure a spot. We only have limited spaces because our program isn't a course. I mean, there's course components to it, but it is far more than that. And you get so much one-on-one support, including consultations and coaching sessions. So we can only take so many clients in at any given time. So hopefully see you on the other side, but please enjoy this podcast and send Fiona some beautiful, loving gratitude, energy vibes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode. We are so excited to have a very, very special guest with us today. We have our client, Fiona Foreman, with us today. We're so grateful to have you on the Ending Body Burnout show. Fiona, welcome.
Thanks, and hi, guys. It's lovely to see you.
Yay. We're so excited. We were just saying before we pressed record, this is by far our most favorite interviews that we have, when we can celebrate, create space to share some awesome healing journeys, and you've got a great one.
Yeah.
So good. Well, Fiona, for our listeners, we know you quite well, but would you like to give our listeners a little bit of an introduction, who you are, what you do, and as much about you as possible? Yeah,
like a bit of a backstory as well, in terms of like to the point of reaching out to us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I reached out to you probably on my 50th birthday, I think it was, last year. And this has a little bit of backstory to go through, but I'm, as you can see, a music producer. It's my job now, my business. I run a music production business at my house, and it's a bit of a story how I got there. I actually trained as a electrical control systems engineer out of school at uni, and I worked in engineering roles for about 15 years at industrial control systems, like at the paper mill in Tasmania here, and then there was the Simplot where they do frozen veggies, and the Port Ladder where they process iron ore. So my job was all around programming the computers that make all the machines do the things they're supposed to do, real brain work. because I'd been really good at school, and I had, I didn't know whether I wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher. I knew that I didn't want to be those things, so I must want to be an engineer because
that's the only other
process
option
of elimination. That's right. I was good at maths and science, so that must be me. But as a young person, you really don't know yourself real well. But anyway, I started on that journey, and I did 5 years of uni, and I got a job in Tassie and got married about that time as well, fairly young, would have been 21. Moved here and from Queensland. I grew up in Queensland. But so I started down this path of engineering. And funnily enough, in my university days, I actually had an inkling that this wasn't really me. And I wanted to run away and play in a band because I was a muso. I loved playing bass. That was what I wanted to do when I was 19 or 20. But no, I felt obligated to complete my studies. Mum and Dad were paying money, and I had this brain that was supposed to be good at maths and science. So just keep going down the path that I was on. So I ended up working, for many years, and everyone said, "Oh, you're so good at that," and okay, I am. I felt like a bit of an imposter, to be honest. So anyway, then around 2008, I had the opportunity to. I bought a computer and got into making music under my house, just using the digital audio workstation, which is what it's called. And I had a great friend who had really nice songs and a beautiful voice, and I also had another great friend who was a music producer and had a studio. And so he offered to help me oversee my project of this album for my friend. And it was like, oh, I love this. This is what I want to do when I grow up. I just felt so energized and engaged, helping someone get the songs out of their heart and into the world. And I could sort of facilitate that by playing the instruments and mixing the music and getting it all done. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm made to do. So that was 2008, and at that time we'd actually been trying to have kids for some time. I'd been married for 13 or 14 years, and we'd been trying to have kids for about 6 years after a miscarriage, and finally fell pregnant after some IVF. And so about 2008, the album was released and my son was born. And that was a very exciting year, obviously, but it was also the year that my back pain and fatigue that I had a bit of fatigue over the years. That's when it really exacerbated. It was a lot worse. But you just soldier on, and I went back to work. And then I had another daughter, my beautiful Michaela, in 2012, and then 2013, the father of my kids passed away very suddenly and unexpectedly, and obviously my world turned upside down. So then my body obviously was fairly stressed. My brain was stressed. I was stressed. It was a very stressful time, obviously. But we'll talk more about that, I guess, a bit later, Philly. But to get to where I am now, it was from 2008 or a bit earlier, actually, that I was putting $50 a week away, thinking if I ever get the opportunity to have a studio, I'll just I'm just going to put some money away just in case. No idea how it would possibly happen. So then my husband passed away. Life turned upside down. I had all sorts of things to work through. I ended up buying a block of land and building a house, which was a great project to keep my mind busy through that grief period. So it took several years, though, to get my other house sold. And by the time I was ready to build the house, I actually had met my current husband, Trev. So that was about 4 or 5 years later. And so we built the house together. And at the end of the build, if we still have that money left, because I had about probably $20,000 saved there by then, if that's still there, like it hasn't been chewed up in contingency on the house build, we'll build the studio. And thankfully, it was. And so we moved in, and a year or so later, Trev said, "Come on, we're going to build this house." And the studio, going to build the studio. So we did. And that was about 5 years ago. And so now I'm in my happy place. I can come down here anytime and make music. And I've been working with people all around the world, writing songs that are aimed at film and TV and advertising. And it's a great thing, because it's a perfect mix for me. I always said back when I was at university, it's all about God, people, music. They were my big three passions. And now I can use my technical ability from the engineering days to make music and spend time with people and talk about life and their heart and what they're all about. Because songs always come from your heart and who you are. And I just love that opportunity to share with people and hear their story and help to tell their story through music. So now that's what I do as a vocation, and I know I'm in the right place.
Yeah, I love that. So cool. Chris has had the pleasure of being in your studio too.
Yeah, so in here where we're doing our recording right now, it's not very soundproof, and so when I first came in here, and a couple of years prior to having this house here, like setting up studios, this is our third studio that we've set up. And then when I came into yours, Fiona, I'm like, this is a real one.
Professional.
This is cool. This is somebody who knows what they're talking about, not just Googled stuff.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Really cool.
Actually, again, I spent that time waiting for my house to sell, processing my grief, and having this other thing to focus on. How do I build a commercial grade studio, and what do I need to do? And spent hours and hours and hours thinking about it, working it out, talking to people, Googling, reading and using my engineering brain to figure it out. And I'm really, really happy with the result. And then Trev's just been fantastic because he has the manual skills and the ear as well to help me. And so between us, we built something that no plasterer and no builder wanted to look at because it was too complicated.
Yeah. Just to nerd out on studio stuff. Fiona was telling me when I went and had a look at a studio that no corner is the same. Like all the angles are a little bit different for sound reasons. That's no wonder a builder didn't want to do it. Like it's not a box. You gotta. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and plasterers don't like it. That I didn't want the corners covered up with corners because that sound would leak out through the gaps. I wanted them, meeting exactly and nice and
that's pretty cool. Yeah. And one last interesting thing is when I was in high school, I too wanted to be an engineer, but not because I was good at maths. In fact, I was awful at maths, and not because I was good at science, because I was not great at, but I had friends, my good friends were excellent at maths and they were excellent at science. And I was really smart for sitting next to them because sometimes I could osmotically get the correct answers.
Osmotically.
Yeah. And there we go. One of my good friends from high school has a PhD and lectured at university in physics. And I just wanted to be like my friends. And I did not even know what an engineer was, but I wanted to be one.
I think that's cool though. Like we'll move into your ending body burnout journey in a seckie, but it's almost like you already went on this journey even before meeting us to find something that aligns more with your soul.
Yeah, for sure.
And being able to take that leap, because I mean we have a lot of clients, we talk to a lot of people who are just stuck in a job or a business that they hate and literally they feel so trapped in it. And it's destroying their health because their unconscious mind has to send them some pretty strong signals at some point to say this isn't working anymore. So get out. You haven't been listening to the small still voices. So I'm going to slam you with some pain.
and that was already happening for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So the chronic fatigue and the back pain, even before having your first baby and then your first husband passing away, it was already starting to send you those signals to say things need to change.
Yeah. For a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So when you reached out to us, can you share with the listeners symptoms that you're experiencing, how it was affecting your life, the reason why you reached out?
Well, by the time I reached out to you, my fatigue was at the point where I could not get up in the mornings. I would be yawning constantly all day, not just but just uncontrollable, just totally exhausted constantly.
I think you rated your energy 1 out of 10.
1 out of 10, absolutely. Yeah,
it was like low.
It was. I didn't think it'd go any lower. It did though. After I started with you,
we'll get to that.
And that was probably my number one issue. My number two issue was back pain, because after my son was born, I discovered that I had very low bone density. That was lower than my mother's, and I had compression fractures in my T5 and 6 area, so sort of bra strap area. At that time when I discovered that, it was like, what? I'm 35. And, I sort of persevered for a few months, and the doctor said, oh, we won't leave you in pain. But I was sick. After 6 months, I was like, I'm still in pain. What's going on? And I got pretty wound up about it. Like, this is just, how can I live the rest of my life like this? This is ridiculous. And so that back pain came and went. It sort of had been constantly there, and just whether it went from a 3 or 4 to a 9 over, cyclically over time. So they were probably my two biggest issues, and people had sort of said I probably had fibromyalgia or just muscular pain and sensitive areas, and again that's sort of leads into chronic fatigue, doesn't it? And my neck and back and muscle tension and headaches, lots of headaches. And the other thing I knew was that I was in a state of fight or flight, and I had been since John, my first husband, passed away, and so that had been probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I realised that actually had been a long time before that, because he had a lot of childhood trauma that I sort of had taken on as a young person. Being married at 21, when you think you know everything, I sort of obviously cared about him, but in a naive and unskilled way, probably took on a lot of his trauma from his childhood. He also struggled with depression. We struggled to have kids. He spent a lot of years very depressed, and I was caring for him without realising, all that stuff. So I think I'd been in a state of fight or flight for probably 20 years. And I knew that just the way I responded to things was not calmed.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I was at when I came to see you.
Yeah. And then even, I guess, like feeding into how you started this conversation as well with I have to do this at uni, and like, even though I just want to like play in a band, like the fight flight starts even earlier, before we start having adult responsibilities and carrying our baggage or someone else's baggage. It really starts like way earlier, which we'll get into a bit later.
Yeah.
Okay. So had you tried anything? I mean, I know what you've tried.
Tell us what you tried.
Tell us what you had tried before reaching out, and what helped, what wasn't, like the journey, the frustration or the hope.
I've got my list here of things that you reminded me I've tried, because it's long. I obviously tried a lot of things. Back pain, I obviously tried chiropractic, osteopath. I went to osteopath a lot. Massage, regular massage. I'd been to the naturopath, homeopathic stuff as far as fatigue and that sort of thing goes. I'd had vitamin B injections. I'd had hair tests to show what sort of mineral deficiencies were going on. I had got hold of turmeric, and that actually helped. My turmeric helped my back pain quite a bit for a year or two, and then it didn't. It's sort of like, I'm taking these things and it's not actually doing anything now. And I knew, because if I stopped taking them, there was no change.
Yeah. Which is, can I just say, like, just add something there? Super common pattern too. For a lot of people, where they're like, oh, I started this thing and my sleep is better, or my pain is better, or like it calmed my mind, but then you can't outsup the root cause. So at some point, Either the same symptoms surface again, or it's like pokes out somewhere else. It's like, oh, now I've got this thing going on. What's going on? This is weird.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Certainly had been to the psychologist a lot particularly after John died, because I've had these just incredibly epic dreams, just so distressing, and it just went on for years. And I'd been on medications, obviously, for by the time I got to you, I'd been on and finally got off Lyrica and Endip and something else. Can't remember what it was, but for for pain and for sleep. And my GP I sort of changed GPs, and she was saying, yeah, look, you're not getting restorative sleep because these medications are helping you sleep, but it's not. They're actually masking that. It's like you're getting sleep, but it's not restorative. And so that's exactly how I feel. So yeah, I've been on several medications for many, many years, and by the time I got to you, I had already decided, no, this is not working, and I got myself off them. So that was a good place to start with you. What else? So the anxiety and depression, and I think it's probably post-traumatic stress type stuff going on. I've been trying to deal with that with medication and psychology. And I also had, actually, just before I saw you, I had a couple of EMDR, is that what they call sessions? Yeah. And they really helped. And that sort of helped lead into what you guys do as well. But it certainly wasn't as holistic. But
built the capacity to be able to continue healing.
Yeah, they helped me with a couple of specific blocks, the EMDR sessions, in a way that was sort of beneath the conscious, and that's exactly where you guys sort of work, don't you? So so that's a bit of a summary, apart from the rheumatologists and things and bone density scans and all that stuff to deal with. I had injections of zoledronic acid to solve bone density problems, which had helped as well. So scans were saying that my bone density was better and my fractures had healed, but my back pain was still there. It's like, I'd also been through a program called Opal, Overcoming Pain and Living, which is done in Burnie with a combination of a psychologist and a physio. And they'd sort of gotten close to what you guys talk about as well, and that it helped a bit too, but it came back. So fair few attempts.
Definitely the narrative of trying all the things.
Yeah.
And
look, I will say too that, like, right now everything isn't perfect. I'm not fully 100%, but I'm so much better than any of those efforts, and I've got the tools as well to recognize what I can change in myself to help.
I think too, like, if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I've tried all the things too, it's Chris and I were talking about this the other day, that it's like a lot of people can feel really frustrated by that, and maybe even starting to lose hope now. And it feels like that when you're in it, but in hindsight, you can actually look back and it's like everything that I did, even something that, blatantly didn't help or didn't work or maybe made things worse, it's still a stepping stone to get you to where you are today. So actually nothing is of waste. Absolutely. It's all part of the journey.
So true. But you get to the point where if one more person tells me to try this or try that, it's like, I'm going to scream because I can only do so much, and having, especially with the grief, and had 2 small children on my own and building a house and getting married again and all the things, headspace for nutrition was something that I knew I wanted to look at my nutrition, but I just did not have the headspace, and I had to prioritize it. But some things were, there was a few big things that were higher priority. So, the frustration was definitely a big thing.
So if you were feeling like that, if one more person tells me to try this thing, what made you go, okay, I'm going to try another thing and reach out to us?
You have those phases of my head's full, I can't try another thing, and then something, finally I had a little bit of space and I'll try something else. But as far as reaching out to you, I had some good friends who had been with you and had some pretty amazing results. And honestly, though, my struggle was finances, and I was because both of us are on the disability pension. Both Trev's going through the program with you now because of his also complex health issues. But we just really struggled financially. And I was just fortunate that my parents have given us a little bit of early inheritance. So finally I felt in the position to be able to spend some money on myself. And I could see these friends of mine had some really significantly good results. So it was like, because I was reluctant to spend money on my health because I tried so many things, and can I fork out big money for another thing and be in exactly the same position in 12 months time?
Yeah.
And I'm happy to report I'm not in exactly the same position 12 months after spending money with you. So
that's awesome. That's so cool. And I think that external evidence of whether it's someone that you know or even this podcast, which is why we love having clients come on as well, and not just our clients, but we'll have other people come on to share like extraordinary healing stories after trying all the things. And so that just provides more hope that, well, if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. Like, it's possible. We all have the blueprint. Okay. So the first step with our clients is the answers phase, which is where we get into some lab testing. So you can't have a symptom without there being some sort of body system imbalance. Once we have that data, then we get into the deeper root causes. So with the body systems and the lab testing, are you happy to share what showed up for you, what was connected to the fatigue, the inflammation in the body, the mind stuff, and how you felt when you had that data? I know that you love data.
I know. I'm an engineer, scientific brain, and that's one thing that attracted me to you guys too, was the test, don't guess. It's like, yes, because I've been to the GP. I'm tired. I'm so tired. And one GP said to me, "You have a condition. You'll need a nap from time to time." Like, yeah, but surely we can do something. So when I came to you and we talked about all the things that I had been suffering, and you suggested, right, how about we look at this body system and that body system? I was like, yes, let's just, you said, do you want to do little, we can do one test at a time or do all three. You had three main ones that you wanted to test. Let's do them all. Let's get the big picture. I'm a big picture person. And so we talked about the adrenals, and as you were talking about adrenals, it's like, that's how I think that's me.
Tick,
I reckon
tick,
that's
tick.
me. Just no energy, and that fight or flight response is, that you have adrenaline running through your body constantly. Surely that's, if you're overdoing it, surely that's going to tire that system out. So we looked at adrenals, we looked at the gut, and we looked at the detox system, didn't we? And sure enough, my adrenals were I was so happy. I knew it would be like this, because the mornings I'm supposed to have high cortisol, it's comes down, it's provides energy for the day, and mine was like flatline.
It's like, where is it?
No cortisol early in the morning. Explains why 9, 10 a.m. It's like, I drag myself out of it. So that was like great, because to have some evidence that I'm not going mad and I'm not just needing a nap every now and then. There's actually something physiologically not right in my body. Fantastic. What can we do about that? And Philly says, well, we can do lots. And so that was the big one. I think my gut was pretty reasonable.
A little bit of dysbiosis going on, but it wasn't the big project.
Not the big project. And there was a couple of detox things to look at as well.
And brain.
Oh, the brain. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
My serotonin and dopamine levels were low. Oh, that's funny. I've been on antidepressants for years and years.
Yeah.
Oh. And when you explained to me that, that's just masking the brain's not producing the dopamine or the serotonin. So the pills are providing that for you. Basically, your body's not being restored. It's not healing. It's just being band-aided. It's like, yeah, makes so much sense.
Yeah. Which also makes a lot of sense when people have trouble coming off that type of medication, because it's like you don't come off it and all of a sudden the brain's like healthy again. It's literally just,
Still
a mask, a Band-Aid, and it can be a really important one too for people who are really struggling. But yeah, when you have the data of your actual physiology, it's just like, everything makes sense. and what can we do about it?
That is so, so helpful when you've been struggling for years and years and years, and it's like nothing you've tried has worked. Well, must be something. It must be me. You know?
Yeah.
It's validation, isn't it?
Yeah,
we get a lot of our method is, it's not just physical, but it's not just the metaphysical either. It's both. Hey, and I think it's nicer to go into that deep root cause work when you've got some numbers and data and graphs all saying, hey, look, it's not in your head. Like there's actually something to work on right here. Rather than just going, you know what we could do is we could maybe hold hands and hum and like breathe together. And it's like, how will that help?
Okay.
Don't know, but like, let's just be happy. It's like, wow, I don't know, dude.
And that is what I just so love about your method is how holistic it is. We do look at the numbers, we do look at the body systems, and we do look at what can we physiologically do with supplements and give the body what it needs, but also how on earth did we get there in the first place, and what can we do to not go back? That's which is where we're going, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, before we go to the deep, just something that you said earlier where you're like, I was 1 out of 10 energy, and then when I started with you guys, didn't think it could get worse, but it did. Can you just explain that? Because I feel like that was the start of kind of like the physical healing for you, and there were some things that we took some Band-Aids out, didn't we? Or you did.
Yeah.
I just encouraged.
Yeah, well, we so the first thing I did was go off the stimulants, and I always said coffee doesn't really affect me much. Have 1 or 2 a day. I could live without it.
Yeah.
With or without it. But I was a bit of a chocoholic. Yeah, love my chocolate. And that was about it. I probably ate, I knew I had a bit more sugar than I would, processed biscuity type, cakey type stuff. I love that sort of thing, but I ate reasonably healthy otherwise. And so I just went off the coffee, and I went off coffee. So caffeine, sugar, soy, alcohol, I don't really drink much, nicotine, don't drink much. So stimulants. Yeah. Went off the stimulants.
Can I just say this was like part of the start of the healing of the adrenals from the physical perspective? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went off those, and I slept for a month, I reckon, almost literally. Like I was pretty used to having a nap an hour or so, hour or 2 or 3 every couple of times a week. But I was sleeping every afternoon for several weeks. And it's like, I am absolutely shattered. Is this surely? So that's what stimulants have been doing. They've been helping me survive to that pretty pitiful energy level that I had. Yeah. And now it's even worse. What are you going to me, Billy?
I'm quitting. Actually, I don't think you ever said I'm quitting.
No, I didn't. But that was the Band-Aid we ripped off, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's because you understood it too. It's like this is part of the healing side of things. And also when someone starts supplementing with the adrenals, and I know we've had this conversation together too, Fiona, is that sometimes people, maybe they haven't ripped off anything from a nutritional point of view because they're already doing that. They're already eating in a way that supports their adrenals. But even when you start therapeutically supporting the body from a neuroendocrine point of view, your body can actually start feeling safe. And then sometimes not everybody, but sometimes there can be a bit of a slump with energy because all of a sudden the body's like, now I can rest and digest. And now I can sleep. The tiger's not chasing me anymore. So it can kind of feel a little bit like a lull before it starts improving.
And that was part of my experience because I sort of decided that, right, I've committed to this process. I'm going to take the pressure off myself for the next 6 months minimum, I think it was. So maybe it was September. I said, until February, I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing. And obviously, I'm not going to leave my kids in the lurch or anything. But minimum, just do the minimum to get the maximum, Chris. Do the minimum. I wasn't going to, especially in the studio, I wasn't going to expect myself to be working long hours or no expectations. What I gave myself in the studio particularly, so that family life could be maintained, but just take the pressure off myself. And I think that's part of that slump as well.
When you went down in energy, I know if we didn't do the testing, what am I trying to ask? I'm trying to ask, like, how did having that data, like knowing that you're a pretty logical person, systematic, data-driven gal, how did having that data, if at all, help you to kind of take it on the chin? Like, okay, energy's down, but I know that this is not just like for no reason.
Yeah, totally. And part of my thinking too was that it's taken me 10, 15, 20 years to get here. I think I'll give the process a bit more than a month to make some forward progress. And there's the old saying, things often get a little bit worse before they get better. But the data, knowing that the cortisol levels are very low, DHEA levels are low, and Philly says that supplementing these will be able to restore some of that physiologically. I've only taken it for a week. Surely, I need a bit more putting in to get better. So I'll just hang in there, hang tough.
That's cool.
Yeah. That is cool.
I just on the sugar and chocolate thing, that I'll tell you, the one thing that probably saved me was Philly's chocolate brownies, cacao brownies.
Oh.
So many recipes.
I actually still make that buckwheat brownie recipe every fortnight, and that's my chocolate and my cakey sort of fix.
Yeah.
What day do you normally make them, Fiona? I'll just come to the studio on that
day. You got the recipe too on the app.
Yeah, but if she's making them, I'll just pop around.
I don't know. They're labelled for Fiona only.
No. I'll send you a message every day.
Okay, so you can't have symptoms without there being some body system imbalance. So we've uncovered that. And then it's always why. Why did the body systems burn out in the first place? And, there's always, I think, about different levels of root causes, surface level stuff, toxins in the environment, nutrition, movement, but then the deeper stuff, which is, I would say, it's the 90% of what we work with with clients, and the attention and focus you're putting on is the deeper stuff that's happening below the surface, the baggage stuck in the unconscious mind. And where we go, first and foremost, is there's some sort of dysfunctional belief that you have about yourself at an identity level that is basically like the little tiger chasing around your nervous system, which is contributing to this. Well, it is the root that is causing your system to stay in fight flight. You're holding on to past trauma, distressing events because of it, and your body literally can't heal, which is also the reason why when someone is doing things and it's I feel a bit better, but then it's coming back again. What's going on? Are you happy to go into what that looked like for you, discovering the deepest root cause?
Yeah, it was not easy to do, very challenging to do actually. But and partly for me it was I didn't have any big childhood traumas. I had a lovely childhood, lovely parents, and they did their very best, and I had plenty of opportunities. I was encouraged. But there was stuff missing that I didn't realise that I needed as a small person. And I guess that my first clue was this drivenness. I have been driven throughout my life to be as good as I can be. Just to, I did great at school, so therefore I should do great at everything. I should be whatever I put my hand to. I should do really well at, because that's who I am. I should be productive. I that was a huge flag for me, was just the constant need to be productive. Especially because I had fatigue, right? So if I wasn't in bed, those hours when I was not in bed, I had to make the absolute most, and I couldn't waste them. And I had to do this, and I had to do that, and I had to.
And even in bed, the brain was still like, hang
exactly.
on, I got to do this and this and this in the morning, and maybe I should be doing that. And
I could run my life from bed.
Yeah.
The internet's amazing. I order groceries. I, shout at the kids. Lots of things you could do from bed. And I actually had Trev and I had said that to each other. We can actually pretty much run our life from bed, can't we?
That's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's grandparents. Do you remember that?
That was us. Yeah. And then when I was up, it was like I have to do. And also when I was in bed, often I would be thinking about a project in the studio. Maybe I could do what buttons I'd press and what knobs I'd pull to make the sound do this and that. And I'd be processing, thinking about. I'd think about a task I had to do in the family, in the home, and how I would do it most efficiently, so that when I did get up, I'd spend the least amount of time doing it, so I could do something else as well. Productivity, and it's tiring, exhausting. Yeah.
It was interesting for you too, because I think there were a few coaching conversations, or maybe even as you dug into what we call the outlets, so it's like kind of like your reflection journal prompts, is that initially you didn't think that was an issue, because you're like, but I love doing what I do. Yep. Like I love my business, and I love and I love my children, and I love my husband.
Yep.
So can you like explain what was going on there, and what was the little light bulb moment where it's like, I get it now?
What was it? It was just the overdoing, like that. Do I have to be doing, have to all the time? Like, is it good for me? Oh, me? Hang on. I love my business. I love my children. I love my husband. I haven't said I love me. And so I dug back a bit further, and into some childhood memories, and then nothing horrible or awful happened, but I just felt a little bit undervalued. I think a bit less important than other things in my family life, perhaps, as a small person. So I sort of got to the point where it's like, you know what? Everything's very important, but I don't feel like I'm important. And for me, that was the ding, ding.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh my gosh, now it makes sense. All the doing, the achieving, the brain that won't switch off when I'm supposed to be asleep, that's going to help me with energy in the morning. It's like, I see it. Yeah.
And it took a long while to figure out, what does that actually mean? What do I mean? I have a strong Christian faith, and I know that I'm loved and valuable. I know it, but I hadn't actually really, really, truly believed it. And it's that belief that I'm valuable, I'm significant, I have a place in this world. And the three sort of things that were, and I'm important. I was struggling to believe that, really, truly.
Yeah. And it's because the belief system that's in your unconscious state is what rules the way your thought patterns, your behavioral patterns, and literally the way that your body systems and your health is. So intellectually you can have a belief that, I am, I am made of God. I am worthwhile. But if your unconscious mind is holding on to a lie that you made about yourself when you're a little kid based on misdirectional information, then it's hard. It's hard for your whole body, because your unconscious mind is stored in your body, to be able to viscerally feel and know and believe that at that more cellular level. Yeah.
I could say it out loud. I could say, I know that I am a worthwhile person. I'm not a bad person. I know I'm lovable, and I know I'm worth something to people, but it just hadn't really connected properly. Could say the words, but and think it even, but not really, really, really fully, firmly believe it.
Yeah. And we have a saying, the proof is in the pudding. So it's like, yeah, cool, you're saying that you do, but there's patterns.
Yeah.
And like there's 1 out of 10 energy, and there's like debilitating pain.
Those dysfunctional patterns were a challenge for me I remember asking Chris about what are my dysfunctional patterns? I don't know. I can't see any. And then I found a few, and it was really interesting. One of them was that thinking about all my activity that I should be doing in bed that's not really good for me, not healthy. Those, and when I wrote them down, okay, yeah, I can see that's probably not ideal. And then couple of months ago, when we went back and looked at them again after having been through the program, it's like, I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore, and I don't do that anymore. Awesome! It's like, no wonder I feel a bit better.
So cool. So what did the rewiring, reprogramming of these deeper beliefs, clearing past memories that are attached to it, and then also rewiring to get your body back on track and healing? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it took me a little bit to launch into that process. I don't know if you remember, I was like, a little bit hesitant.
What was the hesitancy about? Like, will it work? Or
yeah, I think I was worried that what if this doesn't work? And it was, I wanted to do it well.
Pattern. Perfectionism.
Yeah, because it was like a 21, you have like this in the middle of your program is a 21-day rewiring system. It's like, I'm terrible at, I know that I should do this, I should do that, it's good for me, but I just often set up these schemes and plans, and if I just do 10 minutes a day of that, but I never do it. It's like I do it a day or 2 days, and then I fall apart and I don't do it. It's like, I'm going to do it with this. Is it worth, I want to actually wait till my calendar's free so I know that I can do it every day and whatnot. And that was a part of the hesitancy, a dysfunctional pattern. That's changed for me now. I was saying to Trev this morning, I've got exercises that I need to do for my back, and now instead of insisting that I do it every second day or whatever the plan is, it's like, well, I'm supposed to do it 3 times a week. If I didn't do it yesterday, I'll do it today. I won't worry if I didn't do it last 5 days. I'll just look at yesterday. I didn't do it yesterday, so today's an on day.
Yeah.
And don't beat myself up because I didn't do it for the last 3 days. Just do it. It's not. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and I do things like that, even just not look after myself. Like if I was thirsty and there's a drink of water just there in the middle of the night, reaching out to get the drink of water was too much effort, and I'm not actually. It's not so much the effort, but also I'll be okay. I don't need it. I'm okay. Yeah, I'll be all right. I wouldn't look after myself. Like I wasn't important enough. I didn't say those things to myself, but it's just like, and that's definitely a pattern from my family, I think, background, that whole just making do with what you have, because just don't use too much or be too impacting on the world around you. Just keep small.
Yeah,
which is great until it's not, right?
Yeah,
that's right. So back to the question was about rewiring.
Rewiring. Well, can I just add something there, because that's interesting as well, because so many people I'm sure will resonate with this, that it's like, okay, here's the process or the protocol or the whatever it is, whether it's nutrition, rewiring, exercise. So many people will start, or maybe not even, because they're like, I've just had so much evidence that like I do these things for 3 days and then I give up. So why should I even bother doing it? Or, they're just like, no, I'm going to do it, but then they stop. So like directly that was connected to the deepest root, that if you're not important enough, you're not significant, then, that example of like, I couldn't even reach over to get a glass of water for myself. Well, of course, then you're not going to do the big things that are going to make like a huge life-changing, dramatic, end result, because your unconscious mind is like, we're not that important.
Yeah. And so there was a little bit of a catch-22 for me there, because I knew that this 21 days rewiring exercises would be really good for me, but
were there any practices or coaching frameworks or anything when you got to this rewiring, reprogramming that really resonated, or you feel like, that one was that really either changed the patterns or started reducing symptoms or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I love how there's quite a variety in that 21 days of practices, and some of them were excellent and some of them didn't resonate. But a few I can think of, the pendulation, of course, was a really good one, where just swinging your attention from a place in your body that's uncomfortable, less comfortable, to something that's feeling really comfortable. I've done that a lot of times now. I do that on my own now. And some of the ones around distressing events and making them really small, and then flicking them away or blowing them away, reminded me of the EMDR experience as well. That some of those big, some of those significant events that made me have a visceral reaction, like, oh, I remember that event and it makes me feel, I remember how I felt, and you physically feel it. Solve those, I can think about them now, and they're not
decoding,
not as big.
Decoding the way the brain, unconscious mind, has been holding on to them. It's just like, we have so much power that we can change that and literally clear it. Or it's not really clearing it. It's actually just like what's scientifically happening is you're taking those distressing events or even beliefs and storing it in the hippocampus. It's kind of like, cool, now we're just storing it away. We can remember it, but it no longer has the emotional charge or like angstiness.
It's like putting it into its proper place, into its perspective.
Yeah.
And I've got a really practical thing that happened that before I met you, but the location where John died was on a beach in the Gold Coast, and he was in the water, and there was a pontoon out in the water, and my son asked him to take him out there. So he walked out there, and it was up to his neck, and I remember looking at him and thinking, oh yeah, he'll be on the pontoon in a minute, because he was right at the pontoon, and next minute he was dead. It was just his heart had stopped, and in my mind that scene was just huge. A massive place, like the beach was long and the pontoon was a long way out, and then when I went back there a few years later, I was just so surprised how small the physical place was. So when I was doing this work with you, it's I could totally relate, because it's like any of the distressing events in your head get bigger. They seem so huge and overwhelming, but actually their true place is this size. So I had that physical example of that to work with, when it made so much sense what you were saying.
That's so cool. Okay, what was the moment that you knew things were working for you, that things were changing, that it was kind of like
I reckon so it was September we started. Probably through the summertime I had just taken pressure off myself, and then in February, I think it was, we went on a trip to Jindabyne. It was a whirlwind trip, 3 or 4 or 5 days, and we had heaps of driving and heaps of in-laws to be with, and just busy. It was hot, and I just knew that I could not have done that 12 months prior.
I remember you sharing that in a group session. You're like, yay!
Actually there was one even before that. I think it was around the same time when we went to Hobart for a one night, so that's about 3 hours away, and family trip, and I drove home in the evening, 6 till 9, 3 hours, because Trev was tired because of what he'd done. And then I got up the next morning and went to church at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was just unheard of. Usually a trip like that would be days of just wiped out.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So what does your health, what does your life look like now? What's changed for you?
Much. So something we didn't talk about was my intention about my desired state. This is part of what we go through, and my desired state is to be happy, relaxed, and kind. Not that I was unkind before, but I often found myself being a bit dragon mummish, like you say sometimes, Phil, because of my just sheer exhaustion. And I didn't like that person that I was. So my 3 words have been happy, relaxed, and kind.
Awesome.
And I honestly can say sometimes I'm driving around and just thinking, oh, man, I feel happy. Happy.
Yeah.
And I realised that I actually haven't felt happy. I've been content. I've had joy I've a deep-seated joy in my life, always. But happy, I just feel happy. It's a nice
Sparky.
day.
It's like, yay.
Sparky, yeah. So
there was that email that you sent me actually Do you mind if I share that one? Because I thought that was really cool. Because also something too was like a lot of like money fears and, money worries.
Oh, yes.
And you went shopping with your kids and they're like, you're so happy, Mum, and you're not even caring about spending money.
I know. Like,
love and light and like dollars. Woo.
Yeah. And my business, I took the pressure off in the studio. So I'm just going to do music as I feel like it. If I feel like it, I had been really, I'd spent 4 years, I called it my apprenticeship, getting myself up to a point where I consider myself a professional producer and my work's of good quality. And I'd really not been earning a lot of money at all and not being able to not feeling like I could command a certain rate or anything. And so since about February, just with very little effort, the work started to flow in, and I've been quite capable of managing it. And the block about, oh no, what if I get busy and I earn money and then my disability pension reduces and I'll have to work. I have to keep working. What if I burn out again? Basically, my body won't have the energy. I'll be tired. And my whole mindset around that has shifted to, you know what? I'm just going to do what I can. Do that. I love this stuff. I'll just do what I'm doing as I can, and I'm sure that it will increase over time, and it has been. I set myself a limit at one point, 3 hours in the studio, no more, because I knew if I overdid it, I wouldn't be good for me. And so I had stuck to that for many, many months, and now it's like up to maybe 4 hours, and it might continue, and it'll gradually. If I end up earning enough money to get off the pension, that's great. But I'm only going to do that. I know I'm not going to push myself to the point of exhaustion. I'm only going to do that as and when I can. And I'm so grateful for the assistance that we have in this country to be able to be looked after when we really need it. And I've got past the guilt of that as well. It's like. But I'm a capable person. Why should I be taking help? Lots of good mindset changes.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing too, like especially with not just low energy, like people who have low energy, like this kind of like you came in with 1 out of 10, and so then 1 out of 10 energy. Sorry, so with this like old chronic fatigue symptoms or condition, it is like it's these incremental changes, and then being able to understand your patterns and the beliefs and rewiring that so it is actually safe to go at the pace and build that capacity little by little over time enables one to then be able to heal and actually then increase that energy incrementally, be able to do more, but without doing that whole burn crash cycle where people get stuck and never heal. So cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions. What was different about the Ending Body Burnout Method?
Everything. The main thing is for me is that holistic approach, that you're not just looking at one small aspect of health. You're not just looking at just looking at the supplementing your body systems, or just supplementing the adrenal system because you're tired. You look at the whole picture of the body systems, but you also look at the whole picture of how did that body system get burnt out in the first place? What caused that? What are you doing that's caused that? It almost can't be external factors. It has to come from within. And the plethora of tools and strategies that you have to offer some work and some don't, and I can find the ones that work for me, and that's very holistic. That's the big difference. So much more holistic than anything else I've done. You got nutrition in there, all your recipes for
brownies.
eating.
There's lots of brownies, people.
So many different brownies to eat.
That's how we roll.
And I was prepared to be eating completely differently to how I did. It's like, it's going to be hard, I'm going to do it, but it was actually not that
fun.
hard at all. It was, and I don't eat completely differently. I eat mostly the same, but just the broad base that you launch from is what is so different to every other thing that I've tried.
Thank you.
Cool.
Last question. If someone's been listening and they're in the depths of body burnout, they might even be feeling a bit like you were too. I've tried so many things. I'm losing hope. Is this even possible for me? What words of wisdom would you give to people who might be feeling stuck?
Yeah, you can get unstuck. It's pretty surprising that it's possible. But it is definitely possible. And I think I remember early on in our group calls, Chris, I said, I've done this and I've done that and I've done the other. Is this really going to help me? And you said something like, you're in the right place because you've taken all these steps up till now. And so that's all going to help you. Like, all the things that you have done aren't dismissed or discredited or unuseful. It's all, as you say, it's all a step towards your healing. And I've just found a very big step coming through your program. So that'd be my advice for people who are feeling frustrated. Like, that's another thing. Yeah, it's just another thing, but it's a pretty good thing, this one.
I think too, like when you have someone that you trust, so going back to your friends who I love as well, where it's just like, they can vouch for it. Or we also have people, and by the way, this advice wasn't to like just join the Ending Body Burnout Method. It might be someone else might be listening to this podcast and they're like, I've been thinking of, like, my heart is being pulled to this thing. Like, there's so much, 95% of what you need to heal is already inside of you.
Yeah.
So when you're feeling pulled to something, even if it feels scary and challenging and you've got all these like excuses in your monkey brain as to how it can't work or won't work for you, but when you can like drop into your body and listen to your intuition, I think like it's going to guide you. The deepest, best part of you that wants the best for you will guide you to where you need to go next.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
No worries.
Not just for this, being so generous with your time and your story, but also we've just loved working with you as well. It's been so much fun. Everyone goes through the method differently. I think you did it in a way that was just really slow and steady, and I feel like it was quite flowful and quite organic. You like really at the start you were able to let go of I have to tick through all this and it has to look like this and I have to keep up with X, Y, and Z. It was just sort of like I give myself permission to allow the healing to unfold as it needs to.
I gave myself 12 months. I said, I'm going to see how I am in 12 months. I'm committing to 12 months of this strategy. And so, I did get, and I did find myself sort of feeling slack at sometimes. And then it's like, no, you know what? That's okay. I'll just do what I can do and keep chipping away at it. And the weekly meetings really made a big difference to being able to do that. You know, I'd go weeks sometimes without having actually made any effort in Spark or whatever. But I'd get to the weekly meetings and oh yeah, that's right. And get excited about it again. Yeah. And so again, I took that pressure off myself, which was something that I was so good at doing in the past. So I sort of already got something pretty early, didn't I?
Very good.
Really good.
I'm also going to put in the show notes to a link to your website if anyone's been listening and they're kind of like a muso type person, because you're doing some awesome stuff in the world.
Yeah, I just love music as a means of sharing yourself and supporting others as they share themselves is what I'm built to do, I think. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So
I just want to thank you guys too. You've been so instrumental in a huge step in my healing. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. I'm just going to do a little selfie. This is going to...
While still recording the podcast?
Yeah, we can tune that last little bit out. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, Fiona. We'll catch up with you real soon. But it was a pleasure to work with you, and it was a pleasure to chat to you today.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cool. Alrighty. See you soon.
Catch you later.
Bye.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.